Evening, everybody. Good morning from bright and sunny places. Good middle of the night if it's that with you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, dear friends and new friends, for joining us for this very important evening on Catholic Women's Strike with Kate McElwee, and all our friends come here to look at this hugely important topic. Urgent. So thank you very much. And Mary, I'm sorry, but I've forgotten who I'm introducing to lead us into prayer. Mary, you're muted, love.
Julia.
Julia, thank you so much. If you could lead us in prayer.
This is the co-prayer. Moved by a compulsion of the Holy Spirit, we cannot remain ignorant of this injustice in our midst. We long for all humanity to be acknowledged as equal, particularly among your community of the Church. So we pray, grieving for the lost gifts of so many women. We ask you, God of all peoples, to bring insight and humility to all those in positions of dominance, and an understanding that the ascended Lord called us all to act, doing Christ's work here and now. We ask this of you, God, our Creator, Jesus, our Redeemer, Spirit, our Sustainer. Amen.
Thank you, Julia. That was lovely, beautiful prayer. I'm delighted to be welcoming Kate back. Today we're hearing and talking about a worldwide project, a direct response, in fact, to the Vatican's seemingly unyielding position on gender justice in relation to ordained ministry. We've heard their arguments, and Kate will remind us of them, I'm sure. It's a niche issue, they say. More maturation is needed when the time is right. Well, the time is right. Right for a global response to a management that isn't negotiating in good faith and is at an impasse in the time-honoured form of a strike. And we're so pleased to welcome back Kate McElwee. Many of you will remember Kate from Bruton Branch's first public gathering in 2021, from Spirit Unbounded Conference in 2023, and in November last year from the Root and Branch Reflection of Synod 2024. Kate is so well placed to talk to us today. She's co-coordinating the upcoming Catholic Women's Strike project. She's Executive Director of Women's Ordination Conference, a grassroots-driven movement calling for women's ordination and gender equality in the Roman Catholic Church. And Kate's on the Leadership Circle of Women's Ordination Worldwide, an ecumenical network of groups with a similar aim, the admission of Catholic women to all ordained ministries. I was with Kate in Rome 2022. You may have heard about our Parasol action. And last year for the Kicking the Can down the road, pre-synod action, and on the feast of Saint Therese of Lisieux and the eve of the synod, at a vigil to honour the baptismal equality of all people of all genders, at nightly vigils in St. Peter's Square, and with a multi-group coalition of women and men to fan the flames of equality on a walk with chanting led by Kate. Kate, I hope you've recovered your voice. Knock, knock, who's there? Is one of the many chants. Knock, knock, who's there? Well, more than half the church. And I'm a fan of women priests. I'm a fan of justice, etc., to and from the Vatican. Kate, I know that you've done so much more to help women and men raise their voices for equality, to be heard, and to bring gender injustice to Rome's, to the media's, and to global attention. Thank you. Thank you. And we look forward to your presentation and later asking questions and sharing our thoughts and ideas with you and with each other. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome and introduction, Rhiannon. It's wonderful to be with this community and to share in this this campaign with you. I hope this evening's call can provide a tool for discernment about how you will participate and what role you might play and what gifts you might share to ensure that we can truly make an impact. And I'm excited to share this dialogue and conversation tonight. So as we heard, these were some of the headlines that came out just in the month of October during the Synod on Synodality. Not ripe, no room for positive decision, niche issue. Rushing is not the way to promote women today. More study is needed. More maturation is needed. Let's take a step-by-step approach when the time is right. These are the same tired excuses we continue to hear keeping women out of ordained ministry. Ordained men decide the parameters of synodality. They decide when the time to talk about women in the church is ripe. And they decide the limits of women's baptismal equality. And they do so at a great cost. The Roman Catholic Church has lost an incalculable treasure in the women called to ordained ministry and denied their calling. We have lost generations of women who lived and died with the pain of not being able to fully live out God's call to them. Women have experienced the constant humiliation of having to try to prove their humanity, their equal worth, and the validity of their calls from God to an institution that continuously belittles them. So we will no longer wait until ordained women decide the time is right. And we are calling on the women and men of the church to join us in striking from sexism by withholding their time, labor, and financial resources from the church during Lent 2025. Against these odds, women are still the lifeblood of the church. We lead and coordinate the vast majority of parish ministries around the world and serve as deacons and priests in everything but name in places where priests are scarce. Without our presence, vital work would be left undone and pews would be empty. And despite our essential role, we are left out of any meaningful leadership and decision-making, including sacramental leadership through ordained ministry. Our strike will ask a simple question: what if women said no? Instead of waiting for a papal yes, we are issuing forth our no to the systems of misogyny, sexism, and patriarchy that seek to stop the Holy Spirit. And by doing so, we will show the institution just how vital women are to its survival, too vital to continue to hoard power and deny God's calling on the basis of gender. So why now? Because first of all, we are not being heard, or worse, we have been heard, and church leaders fail to act. The Synod on Synodality ended with no measurable or meaningful progress towards opening more ministries to women. We reject the Vatican's tactical timetable of endless study and need for maturation. And women's labor, ministry, and resources are exploited, undervalued, or invisible in the church structures, parishes, and at the Vatican. So a strike, as Rhiannon said, is a time-old practice, and we are in good company. Initially, you may remember, called a strike in March 2020, building off of the successes of a German group called Maria 2.0 that had launched a similar strike in Germany. And we're also inspired by many other global strikes that have happened. And we wanted to tap into the rich history of women going on strike. And we took a lot of inspiration from Iceland's Women's Day Off. On October 24th, 1975, 90% of the country's women went on strike from their jobs, from childcare, and from any other labor, and attended rallies calling for equal rights for women. And it was a seminal moment for women in Iceland. And 5 years later, a woman won the presidency, and women's representation in parliament has increased dramatically in the decades since. And also the Global Women of Color Women's Strike, an international coalition that started in the mid-1970s as the International Wages for Housework campaign. It's a history of various strikes as well as efforts at the UN to quantify and recognize the value of women's unpaid labor in the home and in the community. And so I have a couple clips here, some voices of women who are involved in both of those strikes for some conversation.
And the women in Iceland went on strike, everything shut down, right? The airlines, the newscasters were there with the children running around trying to give the news. I mean, it was fantastic. And it showed the whole world the possibility that we have as women, the power that we have when we withdraw our labor, right?
The women who took part in the rally, they all talk about how much fun they had. The sort of the sisterhood they experienced, the sort of, and you know, just sensing that they had power, and some of them had never really felt that way before. So I think that is one of the things that collective action bring us together. We're stronger when we're all facing the same way, and you know, and you can't get past us. That really makes a huge impact. And you just have to listen to these women. There are so many. That would be, for example, one example. Yeah, so collective action is so important. I mean, this all matters to all of us. So, and taking part is, as was in this case, it was experienced as fun and affirming in a way. So I think that is often what feminist movements leave you with.
Not only in the Catholic Church, but in churches worldwide. There's so much work that women do that's also unpaid, not recognized, etc. in the church. So when we talked about measuring that work in the community, the reason we didn't just say in the home or on the land with agricultural work, but in the community, was to precisely highlight and say the work that women do as volunteers in the community, whether it's in the church, community-based organizations, etc., that work has value to society, and that should also be measured and valued.
Keep going. So here are some ideas of how to get involved. And I think as we at WALK were planning and thinking about a strike, we recognize that 40 days of withdrawing your labor or walking off of your job may not be sustainable or possible. And so here are some ideas that we wanted to offer to really recognize that striking will look different for different communities, and your solidarity will look different in different communities and different circumstances. So first you could decline opportunities to be a lector, an acolyte, a Eucharistic minister, or a catechist, a choir member, or other volunteer roles you may normally take on. This is sort of changing the way you show up or don't show up to Mass. You could don visible signs of support for the strike, a symbol, a button you'll see later in the presentation. Some purple stole is a common and well-recognized symbol for women's ordination, but just showing solidarity would be a way to show a visible sign of your support for the strike. You could redirect your financial resources by either withholding your donations to the institutional church during Lent. You may want to redirect those funds to gender justice organizations, the Catholic Women's Strike Campaign, or engage in mutual aid and support a woman on strike in your community. And this would be an opportunity to also talk to your diocese and tell them what you're doing, either in the collection basket or in a letter. Another way is to sort of show up, change the way you show up or don't show up to your job. Maybe coordinating with allies if you work in a diocese or have a diocesan job, coordinating with allies to walk out for 1 hour of your day, go to a place for a prayer service, have a conversation and open a space for people to come together and talk about this issue. Another piece it would be like changing the way you volunteer. Many women are involved in volunteer or social justice ministries in their parishes. So considering how you might want to suspend your volunteer time and find others who could take your place. This is another great opportunity to have a conversation and to recruit men into the movement. If a woman is on strike from her Meals on Wheels or delivering food, then maybe an ally could take on that role for her. More ideas are using social media. Through our toolkit, we have a powerful, as you all know, social media is a powerful way to communicate. And through the toolkit, we have social media resources that you can download, print off, do whatever you like with them. But we have things for Instagram and Facebook. Another way would be to organize a solidarity witness, to host or join a prayer vigil outside of your church, cathedral, or place of worship. You may want to link arms with people in your church or go around a relevant monument, or even host an inclusive meal or ritual. We have our if you can only do one thing, our first major day of action will be on March 9th, the first Sunday of Lent, as we're marking sort of an end of ordinary time. So that would be a day to join in collective action globally around the world with other strikers who are coming together on that day. Another thing you might want to do is write a letter. We're collecting letters from women who are on strike or thinking about the strike or discerning a strike. And we want to be able to share those letters from different vocations across the church spectrum, particularly different feelings towards the strike. I know in many of our conversations, we've talked to people who are reluctant, but understand how important it is. So we want to share those voices from the strike. And so we'll be offering those throughout Lent as a way to feel connected and to continue to grow the movement. In our toolkit, which I think you can download on CatholicWomenStrike.org, we, as I mentioned, have a social media gallery, a sample liturgy that you might want to adapt. We have an original song that's used at many of our witnesses. We have prayer resources and some of those communication tools that I mentioned, letters to women in your parish, letters to your bishop, flyers that you can print off or adapt. And this is a question that comes up quite a bit, is when will the strike end? And again, we want to recognize the different circumstances that people have. So it may can you go back? Yeah. We want to have flexibility and options. So if coming back to Mass for Holy Thursday is important, that may be a time when you want to end your strike. But you could, again, wear a symbol of the strike. You could attend Mass but not participate as a lector or Eucharistic minister, or attend a virtual or in-person, a woman-led liturgy during the Triduum. But I know for some people that's a very, very important time to be with your community. And so certainly you have your own, you can make your own decisions on when you want to end your strike. So these are just some ideas on how to get involved individually, in addition to the ways that I've mentioned. We at the Women's Ordination Conference are a small team, and my colleague Katie is in the in the chat here and a big part of this campaign. So these are some ways that would be helpful if you're looking to organize in your local community. Be a local organizer or a lead for us. If you want to get connected with people in your community, we can comb through our database and find some people to put you in touch with, or help set up a WhatsApp thread for a certain community. You could help us with social media and storytelling, just making sure to amplify the news of the strike on your personal social media pages. We're always looking for more resources or letters. So if you want to offer another template for the toolkit, the toolkit is a living document, so we can add more to that. Website support, and one of the growing pages on our website currently is called our resources page, and we have lists of inclusive mass and alternative liturgy directories. So if you want to help us grow those resources, we'd be very happy to have your support and put more things on that page as well. And then these are just some additional resources to jot down. So the website is catholicwomenstrike.org. We do have a Facebook group, which you can connect with people there. And we have a petition that's going for people who have long been on strike and for whom this campaign may not seem super relevant. We do have a petition that you can sign to show your support. A lot of WALK members I know have said, I've been on strike for 30 years. So, but still want to show your support for the strike, there's a petition where you can add your name and be counted. These are some of the visible symbols that I mentioned. So we recently launched a store that has buttons and stickers and a little bit more demure pins that you might want to wear as an icon for the strike, as well as t-shirts and sweatshirts. And then this is a quote from one of our local leaders in New York, which I think is just so powerful. She said, "The day that every woman decides the Catholic Church must change is the day before the church changes." So that's just a reminder that this is a global effort, and we're working towards global solidarity for this.
There you go. And then you just have to push that drum meter.
And now I think we can open up the conversation to questions and dialogue. I'm very happy to be in conversation and look through the chat here. I know there's been a few things I might have missed, but thank you.
That's right. Thank you very warmly. And welcome, Katie. I didn't realize you were with us. Fabulous. Thank you. So Katie, as Kate mentioned, is the other co-coordinator of the project. Thank you. Well, strikes take many varied forms, and Kate has spoken to us about a wide range of possible reactions to the Church's position on gender justice. So please, yes, as Kate has kindly invited us, please do ask your questions, share your ideas and your thoughts, and perhaps even network via the chat, or if it's easier, network via us after this event. Thank you so much. So questions, observations. So I'll be looking at hands. So if you can use the electronic hand, that is most useful. And others of you might prefer to pop your question or your observation. Keep it as brief as possible, please, into the chat, and my colleagues will be monitoring the chat. So either or, but hand. So the first hand I think I can see, am I right, is Catherine. Catherine. Hi,
Hello.
Catherine. Welcome.
Hello.
Hi.
Mariska.
Ask your question or say what you think.
I, for 20 years from 2000 to 2020, I stood for every mass I went to as a reminder that we're out here. And in the first parish I did that in, two of us started, and then we had a whole pew, and we even paid when they did the pew renovations. We bought a pew for women standing. But I thought that might be a way to either strike while at church, or indicate support while at church, or continue after.
Love that idea. Thank you. Yeah, there's so much creativity coming forth when we have these conversations, but surprisingly, no one has suggested that. So thank you for that. I love it.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you. If anyone else wants to respond to that at some point, that would be super. I've done something similar, but we do have a few hands up. Thank you so much for that, Catherine. Food for thought, and it's doable. Wow, amazing. Julia, I think you're next in queue, and then there may be something in the chat that someone wants to share.
Well,
Julia, hi.
Hello, hi. Responding to the standing thing first, yes, I did
Yeah.
that. When I left all my different jobs and posts in the diocese and the parish, but still went to Mass, but I didn't go up to communion, and I stood, and that was brought to an end by the lockdowns for COVID. So I'm glad I did manage to get it in at the time. Being a very well-known face in the parish for so many years and doing so many different jobs and things, it did make a huge impact, and it really rattled the priests. They were really, really uncomfortable. I was expecting at some point or other one of them would come and ask me to sit down or get out, but that didn't happen. But lots of other people, of course, asked me. And then I said to them, I tell you why, but I promised to tell the priest I won't make a fuss on church premises. So we've got to go out on the pavement outside to do that. And then I'll tell you why I'm doing it. So that was my experience, but it didn't last very long. But my other thing is I am writing letters to the current parish priest and the bishop. And basically, because I gave up all my jobs and posts in 2000, about 4 or 5 years ago, it is now. It took me a while to get out of them all, but I did. So the only thing I do now is I'm graciously allowed to go and continue doing burials of ashes, because I designed and made the memorial garden, and so I dig the holes, I plot out where it's going to be. I'm usually there when the family are there, and all that sort of thing. So I am going to, and I had to do it just before this. Earlier this evening, I got a phone call about a burial of ashes. So even before my letter's gone in, the parish administrator is going to have to tell the priest, well, you've got to fit it in during the time when Julia's not on strike, unless you're going to dig it yourself. So that was great. And then my letter will arrive. And I'm just going to say in my letter, the only regret I have I'm not now an active member of the parish and the diocese is that the only thing I've got to give up during Lent is the burial of ashes. And and somebody suggested that I list my various jobs and posts, and I've been doing it earlier on today, and I've got to 17 and I've stopped at the moment. It's getting a bit embarrassing.
It's amazing. Well, will you write a letter for us during the campaign so we can have you as one of our
Yes, I
witnesses?
will. I will send my bishop type letter, my parish priest letter in as a copy. Yeah, certainly.
That's amazing.
Thank you so much. And just to say, Julia is an absolutely super wonderful colleague on Quo, in Quo Catholic Women's Ordination, which is UK-wide movement. Thank you, Julia. That was superb, so practical as well. And thank you for your service to the parish, incidentally. It's good work you do there. I think Morag, I think your hand's up next. And after that, I will ask colleagues if they've spotted anything in the chat, if that's okay. Hi, Morag. Good to see you again.
Oh, hello. Hello to everybody. I would like to make 2 or 3 suggestions.
Please do.
First of all, I'm making an offer for anyone who's going on strike and who lives in Edinburgh or the Edinburgh area. I'm willing to do a weekly house mass on a Sunday or whatever day suits people. I'm willing to do that because, of course, I am an RCWP. Now, my next suggestion is that if you're going on strike and you don't want to go to Mass on the Sundays, if there's no Catholic alternative, I would like to suggest that you go to a Eucharist or service that is being celebrated by a woman priest or minister in another Christian denomination. And write and tell your parish priest that you're doing it and why, okay? That will probably rattle them quite a bit, I would say.
Absolutely. I think you're right, Morag.
Only if you're going to come to my Mass, don't tell your parish priest because you'll get excommunicated, all right? Now, my own personal protest, but this isn't for the strike. I've been doing this for 15 years since I was ordained. When you're ordained in RCWP, you're automatically excommunicated, and Cardinal Keith O'Brien did uphold my excommunication. But I had a special interview with the parish priest about it, but it was emphasized enormously to me that they wanted me to continue as a member of the parish. And although they couldn't give me Holy Communion or sacraments anymore, they'd be more than happy to give me a blessing instead. So I start on Sundays, I went forward for the blessing, and after 2-3 weeks, it suddenly dawned on me, but I'm also a priest, so I can return the blessing to the parish priest who celebrated Mass. So I've been doing this for 15 years, and nobody has said anything. But recently, but on occasions when I've done it, the priest has smiled to me and said, thank you.
Beautiful.
Now, final thing is, about a year after I was ordained, and I was celebrating my house Mass, the reading of the parable of the prodigal son was the gospel. So somebody said something about a woman, an RCWP priest, being a prodigal daughter. And I thought, oh, that's a very interesting idea. So I rewrote the parable of the prodigal son as the parable of the prodigal daughter. And it's full of appropriate symbolism about the position of women in the church. Now, in the last 2-3 days, I have emailed this sermon to Catholic Women's Ordination, Root and Branch, Scottish Laity Network, and also to Women's Ordination Conference. I think maybe Kate will have got it.
Yes.
Good, that's great. Now, I'm perfectly willing for any organizations or people to put this into a newsletter or onto their website, or even to present it as a talk or a sermon, provided you acknowledge me as the author.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's my sermon, and I worked at it over 2-3 days. It took quite a lot of thought to put all the correct ideas and symbolism into it and keep it similar to the original Bible story. But please use it.
We will.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We're so grateful to you for it. And a colleague has just popped something into the chat, Morag. You may have seen it. It's going to be on the Root and Branch website. And I'm sure all the other groups to whom to which you've sent it will do something similar. It's a beautiful story. Thank you. And thank you for your kind invitation to folk in Scotland, or certainly in the Edinburgh area.
Yes.
We'll also do our best to promote that.
Yes.
Maybe you can let Scottish laity know, but I'm sure you have done or will do.
Well, yes, I can email people about that. Yes.
Yeah. And I think there's a general invitation, isn't there, Katie, for all of us to attend masses, RCWPA, RCWP, etc., during the Lenten period.
Yeah.
Show our solidarity with this cause. That's super. Thank you. Can I ask colleagues if there's anything in the chat that they've spotted that they'd like to read out or summarize? Any questions or observations that they'd like to from the chat?
No, I think it's just...
No, just hands at the moment. So the next hand is Claire, I think. Is that right? Have I got that right? Or Olive? Olive, sorry. Hi.
Hiya.
Hey, welcome, Olive. Hi.
Right. As an historian, I've recently been reading a book published in 1967 called The Question of Women and Catholic Women in the Priesthood. And it was actually published Nigel Obstedt and with an imprimatur, and by Geoffrey Chapman, one of the main Catholic publishers at the time. But what was fascinating is the objections. There was an history in it of the objections to why women could not be ordained to the priesthood. And the one that made me roar out laughing was the one that said, women cannot possibly be tonsured. And that's why they can't be ordained. Okay, right. Suppress your giggles, ladies. I think, but the point I really want to make on this is every time they frequently come up with objections, and every time they come up with an objection, we knock them down. So they come up with a new one and then a new one. And I think what would be quite useful is if we actually were to collect these objections over the last 2,000 years and show the theological reason why this objection really doesn't hold any water. And the second point I would make is that we know that Pope John Paul II and Pope Francis have both gone on Hans Urs von Balthasar's Marian and Petrine thing, right? Just of interest, in the English document, final document from the Synod, I did a count, there are 5 occasions where the word Petrine is used. There is no occasion where the word Marian is used. I'll leave you with that.
Thank you. Kate, I wonder whether you want to respond to any of Olive's points before we move on to another hand.
I think that would be wonderful. I think we could add more of the more ridiculous arguments to our resources, because we try to take them, maybe we've taken them too seriously as we try to refute them. But I think you're right. There is so much absurdity in the arguments against women's ordination over the years. So I agree, we should add more to those to really knock them down, as you said. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks, Olive. The arguments are really, if you can call them that, you can't really gracefully that word. They're running really thin, aren't they? Thank you.
Generous to all of an
If we were
argument.
school teachers, we'd say could do better. Thank you. Mary Varley, I think your hands up. That was great, Olive. Thanks so much. And by the way, everybody do dip into the chat. It's really rich. So many ideas and resources, and people are sharing a lot. Thank you. Hi, Mary.
Hi. Yeah, 2 things, Rhiannon. There's a message in the chat from Susan
Great.
Rowe, which maybe Katie Laps might pick up as welcoming communities. So I hope you've been able to see that. But what I wanted to say was about Catholic social teaching. And I thought, I'm going to look up what it says about strikes. And they talked about responsible freedom and a morally okay or justified strike has some conditions to meet. And as far as I'm concerned, this strike meets all these conditions. Must be a last resort. It must be just. Workers have previously exercised how much good faith in expressing their position. The issues are serious enough. No violence can occur, although strikers can be loud and can temporarily assert extreme demands, even like women on the altar. During a strike, the union must have a negotiating posture. Well, I think we're very clear about what that is. And strikers aren't allowed to put customers, I guess we could read patients, students, neighbours, parishes in danger. So as far as I'm concerned, they're all met. But what's really interesting, if these criteria are met, then no Catholic is allowed to cross a legitimate picket line.
That's a resource we need on our website for sure.
I'll send it to you.
Send that. Yeah,
please.
absolutely.
I think there might be some theologians and people who are much more experienced than I in Catholic social teaching who might have something to add to this, actually.
Oh, no, Mary, do go for it. Do share that. And absolutely, I mean, that's the law of industrial relations, or laws probably in all our countries. And perfect. What a perfect fit. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. That would
Hard
be
for them to knock that one down. That's great. Thank you. It's good to know we can be loud. That's nice. Thanks, Mary. That was super and practical. I think Holly, your hand. Oh, Kate, sorry. Do you want to get back to any of that before Holly speaks?
No, I think it's something that we talk about at Walk, that this isn't like the first option. This is a last resort. This is after so many attempts of dialogue, of good faith efforts, of showing up, of holding up parishes. So just, yeah, I think it's not, we're not coming at this lightly, basically. So
No, it's not
totally
just
agree.
another action, is it, as it were? No, absolutely right. Thanks. Hi, Holly. Hi, welcome.
Hi, hello everyone.
Hi.
I just wondered, I was looking at the CWO strike website about, I was looking at the store and the merchandise that's on there. Will that be available at CWO UK as well?
Yes, so if you're interested in purchasing it, just send me an email and we can work out the shipping, because I think it doesn't allow international addresses. So if you are interested in a purchase, just send me an email and we can arrange it for you.
Work something out so that we can pay in pounds, for example, would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah, we're limited by the store, but we'll
It doesn't matter. It'll be converted. I also just wanted to say what a brilliant idea it was about standing up during Mass. I'd never thought of that. And what better way to show how many women are at Mass?
Yeah.
It's just shocking. You know, I was going to a weekday Mass at our church, but we started going to the Sunday Mass. Weekday Mass is probably 90% women, old women, if I may. I mean, I'm one too, but you know, older women, but 90%, if they all stood up, it would be hysterical. I think it's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thanks for that idea.
Thank you.
There's a lot of beautiful drama in that, isn't there? Thank you very much. And also thank you for speaking on behalf of quite a number of us, or asking the question about the merchandise. And thanks for that practical response, Kate. I don't know whether, Kate, you've got if there's any other response to what Oliver said.
No, I think you're right. I think the actions are meant to inspire different conversations, to shift something, to challenge the status quo. So if that means women standing up or women walking out, like I think it can look like different things, but I think the conversations will come from it. It will be a disruption. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And Celine has put in the chat, is there a digital button? Sorry, Celine, I've now lost the chat. Celine, you might like to come in and ask the question in a second, but I just say that wouldn't it be lovely if men stood up with us as well in solidarity?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that this whole campaign, it's not meaningless, but it would have so much more weight if men were in the forefront as well, because you know, the church listens to men. Have we noticed that?
Yeah, absolutely. Happily, there are some men on this call, and happily we do.
God bless them.
There are, there are men. You know, we're not. Yeah, there are men supporting us, and we're very very lucky. I think I've got another hand up. Maureen, is that right? Maureen Sullivan. Sorry, my screen's quite small. Hi, Maureen, and welcome.
Hi to all of you. I'm kind of new to this. I'm a Dominican Sister of Hope from New York, but for 26 years I taught theology at St. Anselm College in New Hampshire, and it was ecclesiology. And at the time, I'm ashamed to say, I knew that there was the movement toward women ordination, but I did not become passionate about it until recently. I personally don't feel a calling, but my heart is breaking for the many who do feel a calling, and I have become incredibly passionate about it. For years, when I did become a little bit aware of it, I was sort of nervous about mentioning it out loud because I thought I didn't want to give scandal. I didn't want my congregation, if they would, quiet me, but they wouldn't. You know, I found that out. But I no longer fear any of it because I don't want to say I'm angry, but I am. I can't believe when you're talking about objections before that over the years have been given. By the way, my way of being protesting now is using I took early retirement from teaching in 2015, moved home to New York, and I'm using my Facebook page as one way of protesting. And I've been putting stories on my Facebook page or articles. I put the strike story on my Facebook page, and then I put a page of objections that have been given. And one of them was I had heard of this practice and it brought it back to me, but the practice of churching that the Catholic Church did for many years for women who gave birth, are you all aware of that? That women who gave birth could not attend their child's baptism until they had been churched because they were unclean. And the reason they were unclean is that sexual activity had brought about the birthing. So they were happy about the child, but the woman had to undergo a blessing. Meanwhile, the husband didn't. And of course, he was part of the act, but he did not have to be churched. So my mother was not able to attend my baptism, but my father was. And that pains me. You know, I can't even believe it. So I've been using my Facebook page as my protest, and I have used as many articles as I can find. Kate, I've seen a number of yours, and it's nice to see you sort of in person. But I'm very, very moved by this whole movement, and I'm just so glad that I'm meeting the women who are involved in it. One of the final thing that I would mention is that after I took my early retirement, I wanted to remain theologically engaged in some way. And so my Facebook page was one way, but I also give virtual talks in theology. And so I am giving a talk in April for our retreat house in Ossining, New York. But if any group or any time, and the talk that I'm giving is the female diaconate, if not now, when? And so I've written the talk. I've got a PowerPoint that goes with it. If any of you or your parishes, or you know of any parish that would like to be educated on this movement, I would be more than happy to give my talk or share my talk or give it to someone who would like to give it. So it's yours for the taking if you would like it. But it's a delight to meet all of you and to see how passionate you are, and to know that I'm certainly not alone in the passion that I feel. So thank you very much.
Well, Maureen, thank you so much. And no, you're certainly absolutely not alone. And thank you for that generous offer. And if you send us at Root and Branch, hello at Root and Branch, and also Kate and the other organisations represented here, send us and we can relay the information, information about your workshop, the PowerPoint that you're happy to share. So generous. We'll certainly take that forward. Thank you. And I just want to say what a sadness. There are no words to describe. I'm sure
I want to speak.
Your mum not being at your baptism. I'm so sorry, but thank you for sharing that. And you'll see in the chat that you're not alone either. There are a number of people talking about the process of being churched, etc.
Oh, okay.
So much, Maureen, and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maureen.
Come back, see us often. Thank you. And Kate, do you want to respond at all before Sue speaks? Or...
No, I recognize your name, Maureen. So
yeah,
I'm going to seek you out on Facebook, but it's nice to connect with you.
Same here.
Yeah, and if you're collating objections, maybe you can share those with Kate and with us and so on,
that would
because
be really helpful.
we're all in that business.
Absolutely. What is the address for Kate, or the address that I would send this Root and Branch? I know because I've been into their things, but is there another one, Kate, that
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay,
thank you. That's lovely.
It's already in the chat.
Yeah, it's in the chat, but I'll put it again.
Is it the women's?
Have it too often.
Yes.
Lovely,
is it
Maureen.
CatholicWomenStrike.org?
It's womensordination.org.
Womensordination.org.
And Maureen, come and see us often. Thank you.
All right, certainly will. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sue.
No, I just
Hi.
wanted to respond to what Kate was saying about the Petrine and Marian stuff, because we had a brilliant talk from Jamie Manson to Catholic, our last AGM.
Yeah.
And she said this is complete nonsense, this complementarity, which they fall back on big time. And, so many men aren't very nurturing. Quite a lot of women are great leaders. It's complete nonsense. So, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty more said about it, but we have to just get on with it, basically, and realize the gifts that everybody brings, men and women, to this. But to fall back on that, and in fact, I know somebody who's done a PhD on the complementarity, because that's what Pope Francis actually quotes, sadly, because he's such a wonderful man in many ways. But we have to fight this sort of categorizing people so that they can't function unless they're part of this gendered reality. That's all I wanted to say. But thanks to everybody else for the contributions as well.
That's really
May I
helpful.
respond to Sue's comment for just 1 minute to interrupt? Francis has chosen the Petrine and Marian principles as his justification for going against female ordination. And he says they cannot have sacramental ministry. They can have managerial, but not sacramental. And he's basing it on a wonderful theologian, Hans Urs von Balthasar, who did not intend it for the reason that Francis is using it, which shows me that Francis lacks some theological expertise in this regard. I apologize for interrupting.
No, you didn't, and that clarification is really important and useful. Thanks, Margaret. It's really helpful.
And
Thank you, and thank you, Sue.
Von Balthasar, unfortunately, is quite a traditional sort of person. So, we have to watch out for that too, really.
It was the 1940s. We've come a long way.
Yes,
But
that's probably it. I don't want to
it's a
get into
serious
theological
misinterpretation,
arguments,
though,
but I
isn't
just
it?
thought I'd say that. Thank you.
No, Sue, that was so helpful to bring that into the conversation. Thanks. Mary, you're next. Hi, Mary.
Hi. I'm going to raise a voice for, I won't say the timid, but I live in a parish where my ideas are just utterly blanked. Nobody wants to know. Like Catherine Maresca, before COVID, I stood for 18 months. I stood at the side so that I was sideways onto the altar and sideways on to the congregation. And after about 6 months, 1 or 2 people said to my husband, is there something wrong with Mary's back? Maybe she can't kneel down anymore. Not one person would dare to ask me what I was doing. Now, Catherine has emboldened me. I will go back and do this. And Christine Raymer, I think you had a brilliant idea, is a T-shirt to say why I'm doing it with a Catholic Women's Strike logo. I'll have a think about what to do. But I would like, if we can use a little time as we go along, there may be others like me. Here I am, utterly at home in Root and Branch, and still terrified in my own parish, because the blank wall, the not wanting to hear me, is so strong. And I don't know why I'm still going, but I love the people. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Mary. I was aware of your witness and wondered whether you were going to share it with us. So thank you for doing that. And indeed, I'm aware that there are other hands up, and we don't have too long. However, as Mary has suggested, if there's anyone else who's embarked on a similar action or would think about doing so, do speak now, or do share it with us in the weeks to come, days and weeks to come. There's something very potent about standing there, isn't there? Very potent about
Just
standing.
to add to Mary, in our toolkit, there is a letter that we drafted kind of with that circumstance in mind, maybe not the extreme of your parish, but a letter that you might write to another woman in your parish about why you're participating in this action. And so it may offer some language if you wanted to have something on hand to hand people, even if they're not asking you directly, but it's a letter of some sort to share why you'd be doing that. So there is that resource in the toolkit as well.
Thank you so much. We can adapt as well. So that's tremendous. Thanks very much. Welcome, Catherine. Hi. I think you're muted, Catherine. Sorry. Oh, you've gone. Is Catherine gone?
Yes, she had.
Disappeared. I'm sure she'll be back.
Sorry, that was me. Can you? Yeah. Sorry.
Is she coming back?
There we go. There we go.
She's back. She's
back.
Where you gone? You're mute. You're mute.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi. Welcome back. Back.
And congratulations to both of you and your organizations. They are wonderful. I follow you all the time on either Facebook or something or other. I just wanted to say I belong to an organization called Catholic Network for Women's Equality in Canada. And yeah, Kate, I think you've met some of the people in Rome when you were there.
And
Yeah.
yeah, we both have.
Yes. Okay. And a friend of mine, this isn't related to the Kenway, but a friend of mine who is an ordained United Church minister, but who loves the Catholic Church because of all the ritual more than anything. He has done a lot of work in the Catholic Church. He stands during consecration. Wow. And he puts his hand out. And if you notice any other ordained priest who happens to be in the congregation, they too will stand and put their hand out. And I'm suggesting that if the women are standing, why not put your hand out? Particularly during the consecration, because that's indicative of that's what you want.
Yeah.
Good thinking.
And that's a symbol that people understand, isn't it? It's a gesture
Well, it's
that
a
people
symbol
understand.
it's a symbol the priest will understand. That's
Yeah,
for
well,
sure.
too well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kate, what do you think?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think whatever. I think you know your parish, so if you think that's effective, I think for all options to take on. So yeah, beautiful.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It's so practical that today this meeting, isn't it? Thanks so much. And I've got a couple more hands up. Please, folks, do have a look at the chat. It's so rich. You've still got some moments to do that. Olive, we're back to Olive. Welcome back, and then
Hi.
Margaret.
Just a quick couple of words on churching.
Yeah, please.
We've heard quite a lot since the Synod of the fact that the Council of Europe, the Council of Jerusalem, back in the very early days, as documented in the Acts of the Apostles, and how it was decided at the Council of Jerusalem that the Jewish rituals would not have to be followed for the men, so they didn't have to be circumcised before they became, could become Christian, become followers of Christ. But somehow all the Jewish rituals for women, which is what churching was, it was a derivation of the old Jewish ritual of uncleanliness, that remained. And I was thinking about this on February the 2nd, which was the feast of Candlemas, or the presentation of our Lord in the temple, or the Latin Mass Society has it in their order as the feast of the purification of Mary. And please, ladies, stop and think for a minute. She has just given birth to the Son of God, and the men thinks that she needs to be purified. Excuse me?
Yes, quite.
Where is that one coming from? The other thing I would like to say is I can remember very sadly some years ago, and it's 20, 30 years ago now, having a conversation with my mother, who had 2 miscarriages when she was in her fertile period. And she, of course, was brought up with the doctrine of limbo.
Oh.
And she told me about these miscarriages, and she was distraught still about what happened, because she had been taught that the soul, at the moment of conception, there was a soul there, and
it was in limbo.
It was in limbo, and she was absolutely distraught at the notion. Now, Benedict has eliminated limbo; he's got rid of it. But that was too late. And how much cruelty has the church inflicted on women? Pure cruelty. But anyway, I get cross about that every time I think of it. But I was staggered with the realization about Mary having to be purified after giving birth to the child. And that we still continued it until very, very recently.
God.
Sometimes there are no words.
The uncleanness is also through our menstruation. That has also been as a reason.
It is all to do with bleeding.
Yes.
Ancient men could not cope with the fact that women could bleed and did not die. When men were wounded, when they were out hunting or whatever, and they got a wound and they bled, it was really dangerous. Women had this magical power of being able to bleed without dying or getting infected or anything else. Yeah, leave it there.
Thank you, Maureen.
Fantastic.
Sorry.
Thank you. Well, what rich food for thought. Thank you so much.
How
please, how do I talk? I want.
Oh, hello, who's speaking?
Moira.
Moira.
Oh, Moira.
I'm-
Moira, you don't need to worry because I'll call you next.
I'm bursting.
Moira,
Hold on
I'll
a
call you
minute.
next, and that's a promise I'll keep, okay?
I'm
Margaret.
just bursting. Just
Margaret, you won't be bursting for much longer, my friend. Margaret.
because I shall explode.
Don't do that. Not before we hear you. Margaret.
Just two things really quickly. I hope everybody will enjoy Vaticanelle on YouTube. You really have to see it because it's so much fun. And it's using the arguments that they have against us as women bishops. And please give yourself a fun time doing that. It was written by Martha Heiser from Austria, theologian who was one of the co-founders of We Are Church, coming up for 30-year anniversary this fall. So please look it up. And then secondly, just a theological nugget, which I'm sure you already know, but I think I'm going to just share it to remind us that we can use this for hardcore people. You know, there's two dicasteries for Christian dialogue, and one is for non-Christian religions, and the other one is for the dialogue with other Christians with the idea of reconciliation and that we should have one church, one shepherd, and coming back together again. Well, what Pope Francis did is receive, as you know, that Anglican woman bishop personally in a dialogue. We all know that the dicastery is there for Christian unity. He met with her personally. What is he doing by that? He's not saying women can't be ordained, but he is saying it by receiving her under the guise of Christian unity and dialogue. So he's letting us know if he came out, they'd probably shoot him or put poison in his tea. But by doing what he did of meeting with her, and they had, 45 minutes? It was on CNN. It was on all the networks that the Pope met with this woman bishop from, was it London? What diocese is she from? He was letting us know that the question is still open and it's there. And I think we need to bring that up and reiterate it, because he would not have a Buddhist woman monk or a Hindu woman monk and talk about church reunion. That's anathema. And if women's ordination is not possible, he could not have possibly had this dialogue with the Anglican woman bishop under the guise of dicastery for Christian unity. So I think that is something we can put out there. He does things in ways that sometimes people don't notice, but I thought it was made a big international statement, and we can use that in talking to anyone.
Thank you. I'm really grateful that you've reminded us of that and brought it to our attention, Margaret. Kate, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's tricky because he does encounter women, and sometimes it seems like he is able to listen, but it's then his statements sort of contradict them, and so it's frustrating to see him encounter and really have time to hear women's vocation stories, particularly this story of an Anglican woman bishop, and yet continue to use old stereotypes and and seem sort of unmovable on the question of women deacons, for example. So it's frustrating. He's confusing in that way and a little bit frustrating. But I think you're right that he hasn't totally closed the door in his personal development on it. So that's something positive, at least.
He's giving us fuel for our arguments. We need to take it up and keep using it, because his words, he didn't come out with an official statement. He makes comments. He did have an official meeting with an Anglican woman bishop for 45 minutes, and it was on international television. We can use
that distinction is really important, Margaret. Thank you.
And I know my pastor will not miss me, and nobody will care if I don't show up. They will be delighted if I'm not there. No, that's
I know
so-
the feeling.
so-
Do it.
Thank God.
Sure.
But put up, we have to do what we can do.
Yeah, the chap next to me is saying, my husband, their loss. Absolutely right. Moira, hi. Thank you very much, Margaret. That was great. I think we were going to bring Moira in, were we? Moira. Is it
Well,
Moira?
sorry, you mean Morag?
Mora,
No,
before
no,
Mora.
It's Morag.
No, Mora.
No, sorry, Morag.
Otherwise known as Richard Hobbs, because he has the iPad.
Morag, we'll come to you afterwards, honestly. Hi, Moira.
Okay. All I can say is in a sense, this is kind of Alice in Wonderland, because whoever suggested to God that men and women were not equal? But someone along on the track sort of hijacked that because it was a suitable suggestion to keep us in our place. And actually, you know, I just can't stop being kind of hysterical about we spend all this time trying to prove that we are equal. It is ridiculous. Okay, that's my first taking. And that's how I feel. And that's why I'm so frustrated by the whole concept the church has about women. And I think it is totally
wrong.
They are creating now these lovely kind of concepts of us being fluffy people. You know, we're different because we are tender, we are this and that, whereas the men are powerful and capable of making decisions. The more distinctions they make and can create about us, I don't know, I think probably the next one is they can grow beards and we can't. You know, it's just ludicrous because we are
stronger,
equal. We are men and women, and God created us. And that's what I loved about this particular expedition, was that you phrased it not on priests or deacons, but on our equality. And that is what I think is the underlying and the most important thing for the church to do. Just say, yes, you're equal. And then it becomes a question of the most suitable person for the job. Priest, bishop, or pope.
Here.
And that is how I feel. I feel so strongly about that. And I have 2 boys, 2 girls. There's nothing different between men and women.
You're right. It's so tiring spending all this time kind of trying to prove and justify the obvious. The blindingly obvious. Thank you.
It's sad we have to do it, but we do have to do it.
And when you were talking about fluffy women, etc., Olive pops into the chat. Do you remember the cherry on the cake?
Mind you, we
had cherries on cakes.
We had a synodal meeting yesterday in a very difficult diocese.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
Oh, yeah.
It's been very difficult moving forward. But I got very kind of, what shall I say? I was very dubious about what was phrased as, because I said, aren't you going to do anything about synod? Because a friend of mine, we took it on ourselves. And they said, oh, yes. I said, you ought to do something. We'll have a tea party with cups of tea and cake. I thought, yes. In the afternoon, midweek. But in fact, I went along very open-minded, and actually it was very productive. So I'm open to anything, but, you know, God help us for what are men. No, that's wrong. I shouldn't say that, because I think a lot of the men laity are equally sidelined.
Yeah.
And we have got to persuade them that by joining together, we will sort out what needs doing. They are sidelined.
That point's been made in the chat a few times about the other groups and the other individuals who were sidelined.
We had a good we had a good presence of men yesterday, and you know the right men are there as well. Sorry.
No, that's really heartening, I'm really glad I'm really glad you've shared all of that. Thanks so much. Folks, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left before Kate reads a most beautiful blessing. You're in for a treat in a few moments, but we're back to Morag. Morag, and I think Maureen after that is, yeah. So just Morag and Maureen, if you can keep your comments, your questions really brief, I'd be grateful.
Yes.
Thanks.
Years ago, I was taught a prayer, and I don't remember now where it came from. And it was, Mary, Mother of Jesus, who turned the Spirit of God into the body and blood of Christ, pray for us. Now, my comment on that, and I made it to a retreat group, and Professor Mary Gray was there. And what I said was, because Mary was a woman and she gave birth to Jesus, she literally gave the body and blood of Christ to humanity. She was never ordained a priest. So does a woman actually need to be ordained a priest? Are we not maybe automatically ordained like Mary?
No,
That's the first thing. Now, I want to make another point.
Yeah.
This thing in the church about women are equal but different. It's scientifically and physiologically wrong. It's medically wrong. The original developing embryonic form, in the first place, as it develops, is actually a female. At a slightly later stage, some of them develop into males, and it has to do with the XX and XY chromosomes. I'm trying to get the details of that from a friend who's a biologist, but she hasn't come up with the photocopy yet, because it's a long time since I did biology at university. I'm getting on a bit, but on that basis, this whole thing on the scientifically, this whole thing about women being equal but different is scientifically and medically totally wrong. It's actually men who are equal but different, but they're unequal but different because they give themselves powers that they shouldn't have. We are equal, but if one form is original and slightly superior, it's actually the female scientifically.
That's really interesting. Thanks, Morag. And I know
Okay, thanks for giving me time to explain that. When I get the evidence for that from an accepted academic textbook, I will send it to you all. Okay, yeah. I've known about it basically for years. I spent my career in the nursing profession, but I actually haven't got that. And as they've done more research, and it's now more detailed and updated, it's actually more evident that it's scientifically correct. I'm going to try and get it, and I will send it to you.
Please do, don't keep it to yourself. Thank you. Folks, we've got a couple of minutes. We've got Maureen and Mary. Maureen, you can keep your observation brief, but good to hear from you again. Really good to hear.
I just want to say thank you. I came to this meeting at a point after doing the research for this talk and PowerPoint, so discouraged after reading what I was reading, because it was all so stupid. It is beyond me that some of the things that they tell us, they meaning church authorities, that I could not believe how utterly, incredibly stupid it was. And they keep saying these stupid things as though we're stupid. And so I reached a point just recently where I was so discouraged. And I came here today and met with incredibly beautiful, intelligent, passionate women, and you've given me hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And men too, Maureen. Don't forget our brothers here.
I forgot. Sorry.
But a few
Well, I
chaps
did
here.
say thank you to all.
Beautiful men.
Yes, beautiful men.
They are.
Support us as well.
Thank you. Mary Volley, hi. I think over the last now before we have the blessing from Kate. Hi, Mary.
That was a great antidote, Maureen, to me, because I've been really quite disappointed by a lot of women's lukewarm reactions to the notion of a strike, actually,
Yeah.
around me, sadly. But I wondered if Kate would have time before the blessing to just tell us a little bit more about sort of internationally, where is the strike going down strongly? Where is there a lot of resistance? Can you sort of give us that perspective
great.
before we finish?
That's great. And if there's anything you can say about the little old UK, share it.
Yeah, well, my colleague Katie and I have been having lots of conversations with groups who are thinking about action, and you'd be surprised at how positive people are to the idea once they realize that they can be creative. So in particular in Poland, for example, there's a group, a burgeoning group there, and they were like, well, we can't strike, but we can put at WALK, we have something called funny money, which is a equal justice reserve note. So a note that says I'm withholding my funds from the institutional church until women are recognized as equals. And they thought that was a really, really fun idea that they could do. So it's still attending mass, but putting in sort of a fake zloty into the collection. They felt like that was something that they could do. And even standing outside the cathedral. So even in Poland, women were coming together and thinking, yeah, we can do this. I know in Spain, there are quite a few groups. So they often do a witness on the day after International Women's Day. And so there's going to be massive gatherings outside of the cathedrals all across Spain. And this is part of their sort of regular witnessing, but they're incorporating the themes of the strike into that day of action. And I've heard there's some resistance there also. But I think that the questions that they're asking are really interesting. Like, well, I have a good parish priest, or my parish is a good one. So what can we do instead? But still, they will stand in solidarity with us in Spain. I know in Washington, D.C., at one parish, they are one of the good parishes. And so they're doing a day of recognition for all of the ministries that women do. And this is sort of a Women's Month recognition. So they're going to recognize all the women who do all the ministries on the March 2nd, I think, and then have a conversation about women in the church. So that's sort of their way of getting at it, which I know if Julia were there, they'd have to add extra pages to the list of ministries that they're doing. But so some parishes are recognizing the ministries that women do, which is, again, a goal of the strike, is making what is often invisible visible. And so I think those are sort of what come to mind now. But we're hoping to have a witness in Washington, D.C., sort of the home hub, and we'll have a social justice a cappella group with us, and offering testimonies, sort of following the template in the toolkit. I think Quo is also organizing an action in London, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Well, we'll probably, as things stand, Kate, we're going to be putting a lot of energy into Vocation Sunday, all the energy that we would have put into this into Vocation Sunday, but to that extent, extending the strike. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. So those are just some anecdotes, but the creativity is really flowing, and people are really thinking of new ways to witness. So
okay, can people here let you know what they're doing in their parishes, in their diocese, and so on?
That would be wonderful. Yeah. If you want to tell us what you're doing, because that's another challenge of this, is sort of capturing all of the creative ways and all of the ways that people are participating in the strike. And so we want to hear it all. And one in conversation with women in Italy in particular, they're also a little bit nervous about the strike. They said the thing that would inspire them the most is these stories of what women are doing. So the standing in mass, it would be a great story to share. One woman was saying, well, no one would notice if I don't come to mass anymore. So instead, she said, I'll sign up for coffee and donuts for 2 months leading up to the strike, and then disappear, and then they'll recognize me. So just like the ways that women are showing up and not showing up is inspiring. And so if you have those, we'd love to collect those stories. So please do send them to me or Katie so we can share them with others to inspire them.
So rich, so varied, so imaginative. I know we've come to the end, as it were, before the blessing, but I can see either Celine or Colin's hand up, and it would be lovely to hear from one of you, if you can be brief, and then we'll have the blessing. Lovely to see you. Hi, Colin.
Hi there. Great to see you all, Kate and Rhiannon. Just very quickly, I wanted to say that here in Ireland, we've had protests on International Women's Day, and we've had events and all that sort of thing for decades. And we've always done them outside cathedrals or some religious place. But here in Ireland, we've gone from 90% church attendance down to 10%. So if you just stand outside the churches, you're only picking up a very, very small number, those who are still happy with the institutional mass. So what we're doing on International Women's Day on the 8th of March is we're standing at the spar in the middle of O'Connell Street, which is like just a great big pointer in the sky. It's like a central spot there. And we're going to stand there. We have 12 women, hopefully wearing green St. Bridget's cloaks on them. We'll have our big banner saying equality, and we have a whole lot of flyers to hand out to people about the equality of women. And we're trying to capture the shoppers who'll be there on a Saturday, the more of the 90% rather than the 10% who are in the churches. Just an idea.
Yeah, no, Colin, that is so rich to go out onto the streets. And also sort of picking up the ecumenical support as well.
Finding
The
sheep, yeah.
Absolutely, finding the sheep. That's so rich. You've I think thoughts are percolating in all our heads at the moment. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, super duper. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. That was such a rich discussion, and my goodness me, thank you so much. But we'll go back to, we haven't finished yet, don't go. We'll go back to Kate for who's going to read a lovely blessing called The Call. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, everyone. It's been wonderful to hear your thoughts, and I'm also buzzing, so it's been very energizing to be with you. So just as we conclude our time on this section, I thought we could close with a blessing. So I'll just take a deep breath. There is a new sound of roaring voices in the deep and light-shattered rushes in the heavens. The mountains are coming alive. The fire-kindled mountains moving again to reshape the earth. It is we sleeping women waking up in a darkened world, cutting the chains off of our bodies with our teeth, stretching our lives over the slow earth, seeing, moving, breathing in the vigor that commands us to make all things new. It has been said that while the women sleep, the earth shall sleep. But listen, we are waking up and rising, and soon our sisters will know their strength. The earth-moving day is here. We women wake to move in fire. The earth shall be remade.
Thank you. It's beautiful. And that, Kate, I think is on the website, isn't it? It's part of the toolkit. So we can freely use that and share that.
Please share everything all over. It's all yours.
Well, huge thanks, Kate. And now to deliver, as it were, the sort of formal thanks to you. We are so grateful. I'm going to pass this over to my colleague, Kevin. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Rhiannon. And a big thank you to Kate. Yeah. I was thinking in 1948, the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights stated that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights without distinction of any kind, such as sex. That was the word used at that time. We have women who are CEOs, we have women who are prime ministers, we have women who are presidents. So why are we now 77 years later still talking about this in a church that is supposed to stand for justice and equality? I've heard it said that the Roman Catholic Church is the biggest misogynist organization in the world, and I laughed. It's a joke. But behind every joke, there is a truth. But back to Kate, who has given many years of her life to standing up to this misogyny. It seems to me, Kate, there's something deep inside you, right? A voice inside you that would not be silent. You've trusted that voice that has made you stand up to this very powerful institution. And I feel that perhaps a price has been paid when we listen to those voices. And I've seen that in maybe the treatment of the Italian police when you were protesting in Rome. And I'm sure you have come to this stride. Well, I think you said that after many attempts to communicate and to knock on a big heavy door that wasn't much open to you. So here we are at Catholic Women's Strike. As you said, it's a last resort. Many have left this church. Many have shaken the dust from their feet and just gone. But you've decided to stay. You've decided to stay and fight for change. And for that, you have my admiration. You have stood up to what I can only call pathetic arguments. This is a niche issue. The time is not right. The issue has been settled. Let's have a step-by-step approach. And we even heard from somebody today, women can't be tonsured. It just gets ridiculous. The arguments are weak. I can't see strong arguments. It makes me think, what's the real reasons? What's the whole psychology behind this? And I can only come up with fear. But just what are these men afraid of? I don't know. It's just something I come up with. Is there fear? But today we have heard some really creative ideas. We have heard of Julia's, well, I think she said before, she gave herself the gift of leading. We have Morag, who has faced excommunication from a cardinal who was subsequently disgraced. We have heard about not crossing strike picket lines and how we are forced to do that under Catholic social teaching. We have heard of people standing up during Mass, people refusing to donate money, putting our hand out during the consecration. There's so many things we can do. So, Kate, you have shown us we can all do something, and not just that, we must do something. But I ask you to really think about it. How can we exclude, I really can't get my head around it. How can we exclude half the population simply on the basis of gender? In thinking about it in spiritual terms, the way that God made you. We discriminate against the way God made you. It just seems like hypocrisy and logically very stupid. As that word was mentioned earlier, the word stupid. So you've shown us we can all do something, and we must do something. And we must not be silent on this major issue of injustice in our church, not their church, in our church. As you have said in your prayer, we must be one of those roaring voices in the deep and light shattering rushes in the heavens. And for that, I thank you very much, Kate. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate.
Kevin, you speak for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Well, always at the end of our talks, we look forward to what's coming next. And we'd like to introduce you to the first in our series of A Different Vision. And of course, what we will be saying is not new to anybody here. But it will be said, I hope, and talked about in a delightful, warm, wonderful way. Sue's going to tell us more in a minute. This first session in A Different Vision is called The Essence of Eucharist. And here we are, the image of exclusion. Leonardo, this vision is what most people think of. Say to any parishioner, the Last Supper, and into their head leaps this scene of Leonardo's, 12 men, mostly at loggerheads. And this is what most of the Catholic Church thinks was the Last Supper. Next slide, please, Peter. The image that I think Father Tony Cassidy will be dwelling on is this beautiful one, courtesy of Colm and Celine, who are here with us tonight. A new painting that they had made, which you can get from We Are Church Ireland, and we'll be putting the detail in at the time and on the newsletter. So much more like what probably happened. So just moving on to the next slide, please, Peter. Anthony Cassidy, he was one of our most popular speakers at our Flourish and Thrive gathering last autumn at Hensley Hall and worldwide. And I'd like to ask Sue, will you tell us a little bit more, please, about Tony or Anthony Cassidy? Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. So at one point, Tony Cassidy was a parish priest who I knew, but I want to tell you more about his whole background. He's one of the top Redemptorist scripture scholars. He studied at the Biblicum in Rome, reading scripture in their original languages. Tony will lead us in understanding the true meaning of Eucharist as it was established by Jesus and the early church. He will particularly emphasize table fellowship, what we mean by do this in memory of me, and what being in the person of Christ, persona Christi, really means. We hope Tony's input will lead us all to a better understanding of an inclusive and welcoming Eucharist. So we hope you will come to our next session, which is 4 weeks from today. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. And as ever, if you're not signed up for our MailChimp, do please go to our website and you should find a link to sign yourself up and get news of all our forthcoming events. And we love, it's a great pleasure and joy to us to put in these international times. And we're never more humbled than when somebody in Perth wakes up at 4 in the morning to join us, for example, or even from India in the middle of the night. So the next one for us to look forward to, and after tonight, just to say how delightful it has been to hear Kate and to thank her once again from me. I'm trying to remember what comes next.
Final.
I think we're moving now to our
Closing
closing prayer.
Yeah.
And Sue, I believe you're going to read this for
Yeah.
us.
Okay.
So thank you so much. A wonderful, warm farewell to everybody, and may the rest of your day or evening be full of blessings. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you,
Sue,
Mary.
over to you, lovely.
Okay. Some of you may recognize this. We've had this before, but it's very special. May God bless you with discontent, with easy answers, half-truths, superficial relationships, so that you will live deep from deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, abuse and exploitation of people, so that you will work for justice, equality and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation and war, so that you will reach out your hand to comfort them and to change their pain to joy. May God bless you with the foolishness to think you can make a difference in this world, so that you will do the things which others tell you cannot be done. Amen.